Hello and welcome to Divorce Literacy. I'm your host, Alex Sanchez, and today I have the privilege of spotlighting a colleague and friend, Sharon Johnson. How are you?
I'm doing well, Alex. Thanks so much for inviting me to join you today.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And uh, folks, Sharon Johnson is principal with the law firm of Johnson and Johnson for over 25 years of experience. She's concentrated her practice in matrimonial family law. She's an experienced divorce litigator certified by the Supreme Court of the state of New Jersey. And Sharon, you're also a trained collaborative divorce attorney, which is great because I see you've been able to settle complex cases without having without litigation or having any court intervention.
That's correct.
Amazing, amazing. So Sharon's office is located in Florham Park, folks, and I'm gonna include Sharon's link to her website below this video. So feel free to reach out to her. So Sharon, the first question I will love to ask you is why family law? What made you go into family law?
I actually started my career in law school, working for a general practice firm, and I was sort of getting the work that fell off everybody else's desk, the stuff they didn't want. And some of it was boring. It was, transactional stuff, which it manageable. But the first divorce case file I got was back in the 90s when New Jersey was not yet a no-fault state. So there was all sorts of salacious evidence in the file of a bit of the husband's infidelity, like X-rated stuff. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I joke, but at the same time, it's actually true. That was the first file that I was handed that was interesting to me. And then the rest of the firm was happy to get rid of their family law stuff and gave it to me.
Sharon, and let me ask you. So, obviously, each divorce journey is unique in its own. Uh, what advice do you have for someone that's starting the process or starting that journey of divorce and hasn't consulted with any law attorney or anyone? What advice would you give that individual?
Get a therapist, because it is a dreadful procedure. It is a loss akin to the loss of a family member. And at the end of the day, you are going to be making important financial decisions that are literally just that. This is a business contract, but for the custody of your children. And if you can do that without letting emotion get in the way, you're going to save money in attorney fees and make good decisions. It's hard. It's scary. You may not be the spouse that initiated this, so you may feel blindsided. And so somebody that can help you take a deep breath um, is essential. The other piece of advice I would give somebody getting or contemplating a divorce is see more than one divorce attorney, because there's a lot of good attorneys out there, but pick somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you can speak to, that you can ask good questions, that you can object to something they're saying or seek clarification um, without feeling any hesitation. This is somebody you're going to be running alongside for a while. So you may get a recommendation that somebody says, oh, go see my sister's divorce attorney, who was a great fit in that case, but might not be in yours. And the other piece of it, I would say, is if you are going to litigate, I recommend going local. And what I mean is within that county or a nearby county, because things vary from North Jersey to South Jersey in terms of the nuances and the relationships and the order of events.
Amazing. I didn't even know that third one. It matters actually the location of where amazing, even if it's in the same state.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain counties that the expression we use is you got home cooked. You know, so if I go 7 counties south of here, I have a different relationship with even the court staff if I'm seeking an adjournment than the guy whose office is next door to the courthouse. Yes.
Sorry, going back to your first advice, which I thought it was amazing, that first advice, a therapist, seek therapist. And that's critical nowadays, especially with you know, especially with what we went through with COVID and everything, and you know, mental illness is key. And then you know, you have an individual going through a divorce, which is dealing with emotional stress, you know, financials and all this legalities and everything. It's amazing that you. Is there anyone in particular? Because I've seen a lot of divorce coaches. Is there anyone in particular, like a specific category that you would recommend?
I think you definitely want to pick somebody who has um, familiarity with the context of divorce, which I think at this point I don't know a therapist that wouldn't. But some of the stronger candidates I think are collaboratively trained therapists and mental health experts, just because they are intimately aware of the process. So when you're talking in the abstract about something, they actually know what you're talking about. Not that they're going to give you divorce legal advice, but they understand where you are and what you're talking about. And you can generally find those on the collaborative divorce practice group website. So there's a bunch of regional ones throughout the state. You just go to the websites and there's usually a drop down bar for professionals, and there's different types of professionals, and the mental health ones are listed there. There's plenty of good who are not collaboratively trained, but those have a background and do a lot of work in that.
And you know, like Sharon, that is key to you know, seek therapy, because I mean, I went through a divorce myself, and at that time, well,
Me
no,
too.
yeah, I'm okay, you know, I got this, and I was so wrong, you know, and it was a lot of inside stuff that I had to clear out, and you know, when you don't have someone to talk to about it, you know, it just builds up and builds up. So, you know, I appreciate you sharing that. Now, we all know that having a great divorce team is key. Okay, someone that's looking to you know, start this process, what kind of criteria should they be asking the attorney when they're interviewing? Or should they interview the attorney, or should they just go with the first one that their family member recommends? What should they look for in an attorney? What do you recommend?
I think what you want to look for is somebody with experience, and it should be a personal recommendation. You shouldn't base it on, you know, like a Google search. It's too important. But get call a variety of recommendations, because you might just click with one person versus another. They might simply be better or able to connect with you or let you feel free to speak freely. But I think what you want is a strong background in terms of experience, somebody who specializes in family law. I wouldn't recommend going with like a jack of all trades type of attorney for this type of matter. And you want somebody who's able to tailor their approach to where you are, and you want to be able to communicate your goals and priorities and have them tell you how they are going to deal with that in a way that is understandable to you, not full of legalese, but where you understand what the process is, what the first step is, what the ultimate goal is, and they are able to articulate to you how they're going to get you there.
Awesome, awesome. Now, Sharon, has there been a case? You know, obviously, you've had so many cases. Has there been a memorable one that actually impacted you in a certain way, or something that a case that you like were involved in, and the outcome was something that you weren't expecting, or
So many, truly, and sometimes they take a turn for the worst, and something it presents itself that you truly weren't expecting. But generally the most memorable ones have to do with custody, because there are
you know?
innocent humans involved, and people take positions that may not align with the best interests of their children. So custody cases, I'm also far more likely to try cases, because to try a case over money when it's a smaller amount of money, why would I waste your money to chase that last couple of bucks? We can make a financial decision, but there's really no negotiating when it comes to humans, in the same way that there is with money. So I would say those cases have the most impact. There's cases where there was clearly abuse and it took a long time to get a judge to know that. And those are, to me, frustrating, but ultimately important and big picture rewarding. But when you're in the middle of it, you're losing sleep over it.
Yeah, Sharon, I'm just reminiscing right now about a case that I had that I was involved with, and you know, the client was in agreement to a lot of the advice that the attorney was giving him, but unfortunately, he was family members here, friends, colleagues. You know, you got to ask for way more. You got to do this. You got to. What's your advice for someone like that? I mean, I remember having a few cases like that. You know, what's your advice when the client is kind of like taking, you know, everyone else's advice except for the attorneys, or the one who's got the best interest in their hands?
So I think it's hard to not listen to the people around you because they care and they mean well, but they're a bit of a, Greek chorus of these people in the background who are speaking in theory and don't know all the ins and outs. They don't, they'll say, well, that's too much money for their friend who is sitting in the barber shop next to them. How are you going to live? But nobody showed them the finances of the family to show why this is the real number. It's non-negotiable. So pick an attorney you trust and listen to them. If you get feedback from your family that raises questions or flags, you bring that to your attorney and say, well, everybody in my family says I'm paying too much child support. What do you think makes them think that, and how should I respond? Or and am I paying too much? And sometimes as an attorney, we'll tell the truth. I mean, we always tell the truth, but I mean, the truth may be, yes, you are, but if you want this case settled, your spouse is being unreasonable. And if you want to settle the case without spending $40,000 on a trial, I recommend that you pay $40 extra in child support, because this is a number that's going to change
Yeah.
over time anyway. So
Yeah, and it's amazing how numbers have so much power, you know, because you could tell someone, you know, it just makes more sense to spend $40 instead of 40,000. But when you actually show them numbers, it clarifies everything. Sharon, what, in your opinion, what makes a successful divorce?
this sounds really wrong, but generally the fair ones, everybody walks out a little unhappy. So those are the ones where at least you think this probably landed where it was supposed to. But a successful one, I think, is where you can leave the building of the courthouse and be friends and sit next to each other at your kid's graduation, and have a civil relationship going forward, especially where there's children involved.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Sounds good. If someone wants to get in contact with you and wants to get a consultation with you, what's the process? Would they obviously reach out to your office and schedule a consultation? Like, what's the process for them to retain your service?
Yes, generally, you contact my office either by phone at 973-593-8000, or you can contact either my assistant or me via email, which you can find on our website. And Elizabeth, my paralegal, will do a little bit of intake to make sure we can help you, just making sure jurisdiction is correct and things of that nature. And then we set up an initial consult where you get an hour. It's sort of a information collecting on both parts, and we're interviewing each other at the same time to ensure that we can work together and work together well. And I generally, I know it's the age of Zoom, and I know people are busy. So I don't want to interfere with anybody's parenting or responsibilities or employment, but I do prefer live and in person these days, just because, again, you're about to make an important decision. Like I prefer us to be in the same room. I'd rather read your body language. If you're nervous, I want to be able to speak to that and those sorts of things. But I will do Zoom or a phone call if the circumstances make that necessary.
And I agree with you, Sharon. I mean, I you can never beat or take away, face-to-face meetings, because I mean, it tells you more than what they're really saying. And I totally agree with you. Now, going back now, is there once they have the consultation with you, is there anything that you recommend that they need to bring, like any financials on the first consultation? Or it's just bring themselves and they can tell you their story, or is there any any documents or anything that they need to bring?
So they can, but it shouldn't be an impediment if they can't locate them. A lot of times a spouse is at a deficit of information and they come in with a lot of I don't knows. So just by way of example, today I had an initial consult with a man who was interested in pursuing a divorce. And I asked him about values of certain things. And he said, well, I have approximately X in liquid assets. I have approximately Y in retirement accounts. If I had to guess, my house is worth approximately this. That's good enough. The conversation is the same, whether he's plus or minus 10% on everything. A tax return's generally good because that drives the bus in terms of alimony and child support. But again, if you know rough numbers, we're able to have a good conversation. If there are pre-existing orders, those are always good to bring. Like if there's a restraining order, or if you have a prenup, by all means bring that.
That's great. Final question, Sharon, you ready for this one? Is there life?
I sure am.
Is there life after divorce?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's hard to know it in the middle of it, though. It's so stressful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. Like people come in, you could tell they haven't slept. Their hands are shaking. They're nervous about everything under the sun. They're scared. Their feelings are hurt, everything. And then I run into them a year later and they look like a different human. They're happy. They look rested and well fed now. And again, it's really hard to know it when you're in the middle of it with all shots firing, but there absolutely is. If there weren't, people wouldn't keep doing it,
Yeah, that's right. Well, folks, you heard it here from Sharon Johnson. There is life after divorce. Please contact her. Her link is right below. Please feel free to set up a consultation with her office. And I definitely highly recommend Sharon. Sharon, thank you so much for your time. And I definitely look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you so much for inviting me to do this with you. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you and working with you in the future.
Absolutely. Bye-bye, folks. Take care.
Bye.